Hello paper crafters, I'm Sunny Sky, and here is the card we're making today. And this is using a Hostess set that you will only be able to get when you host a show or put an order over $150 in before the beginning of June when we start on a new catalog. We're also using the Hinge stamping technique. And so I'm really excited to show you a little bit more about the Stamparatus and how to do this hinge stamping to create these patterns of flowers on this card.
Here are all the supplies you need for this card. This is a standard cut card where I use the 5 for 1 for my stamped image, one layer, and then the full card. We're using soft seafoam, Tranquil Tide, and fresh fig. So we have our Stamparatus here. I've got a hinge on it. I put a stamp case underneath the hinge. I like to do that. It just gives me a firm place when I'm stamping. It does come with the rubber mat or the foam mat. You don't need that because we're using a rubber stamp instead of photopolymer. I am going to add some grid paper on there. This is going to be a vertical card. So I'll set my Whisper White cardstock on there. Go ahead and put a magnet down. It's in the corner. A lot of times I'll stamp in the corner without a magnet because I can easily move it back if it goes out of place. So I'm going to take my first image that I want, and I'm going to set it down on my cardstock, and then I'll just press it into the plate there, and you can see I already had a little bit of ink on it. I'll go ahead and ink that up in Tranquil Tide. Give that a good press, especially near the top. When it's near the top, you want to make sure that it doesn't not ink. Then I'm going to move it over one. It started in the corner. I'm moving it over one hinge. Ink it up again and stamp it again. I'm going to lift it out, lift it up, move it over one hinge again, re-ink it, and stamp it. And it looks like my center one there, I missed a little bit of the ink. So let me just move it back into that hinge, and I'll just get a little dab of ink on that little top section and just press a little more firmly. There we go. All right, and you can use these hinges on the top and on the side, but for this card I thought it would be easier to just do that, for me personally, to line them up, to do them all on the top of the card. I've already placed these on here. I did take the stamps and put them down on my card and then press the hinge down just like I did with the first one, but these I've already got in place. But that's how I decided where to put them, is I set them down over the images that I had already stamped and kind of decided how I would want visually for that to look. And I put several on here. You can't put them super close together. You can't really overlap them if you're going to put them on the same plate because there is that little piece of rubber that comes between the stamps. So if you wanted to have two similar images or two of these images that were going to overlap, you just need to stamp them separately. But I chose a composition where I could keep them on at the same time. So I would just have to ink up the plate once for each color. And you can see that this one comes off, partially off of the card. That does not matter. And in fact, it's preferable, really. It gives your card a more organic feel if something comes off of the edge of the card. Now our final color is Fresh Fig. And I've got a different floral image we're going to use for that. Now I don't normally stamp in greenish flowers, but these particular colors kind of lend themselves pretty well to this. And I used a designer series paper when choosing these colors, and if you go and look back at my previous videos, you'll see I'm using some of the similar colors for this for different cards recently. All right, so that's my final bit of hinge stamping with the Stamparatus. Let me take this magnet off, and I'll go ahead and place it on the back of my Stamparatus to store it. Get that out of the way. And I wanted to have a greeting on this stamp, so I used the accented blooms because the pressed flowers doesn't have any greetings. And I'm going to do that greeting down near the bottom of the card. I've got to make sure that I'm leaving enough room for the ribbon and the background image that I'm going to use. This is also from Pressed Flowers. This is in Tranquil Tide. And it's a little bit longer than this cardstock. So I can go across just once and I don't have to line it up, although I could. There we go. And let me get my ribbon. All right, I'm going to run the ribbon around the back of the card and to the front. And I've purposely left room between the stamped image and the greeting, the stamped border and the greeting for the ribbon. The ribbon's going to cover up some of the stamped image, but I want to make sure it doesn't cover all of it up. And let me get a mini glue dot here. This just came from a paper pumpkin kit. And I'm just going to put the mini glue dot down there and take off the backing. All right, and wrap my ribbon around here. And I'm just putting the glue dot just to kind of help the ribbon stay in place while I'm tying my knot. And I'll just press it down into that glue dot that's there. Get my knot tied. And let me get my scissors. Trim off the extra. To have this, I don't want to have this be quite so long, so we'll trim a little there. And then when you are adhering this, you could use dimensionals. For this card, I'm not using dimensionals, just using the snail. And I'm going to go ahead and do a couple lines of adhesive below the ribbon, one right above it, as well as one on the top of the card. Now usually I just do one on the bottom and the top, but because the ribbon is pushing the paper apart, I want to just give it a little extra adhesive there. And lay it on my next layer of Tranquil Tide. So now it's stuck down below and above the ribbon, and that helps keep it in place. And then before I line it up on the full card, I'm going to stamp that flower that we used in Tranquil Tide from our inside of our card here. And actually, let me show you how we can do that right on the Stamparatus. Okay, Stamparatus back in. Put that plate in. Okay, so here's my card. And I'm going to line it up in the corner. Get my Tranquil Tide. And what I've done is I've just folded the card backwards. I've folded it that way to stamp, and now I'm just going to fold it this way. So this can be the front of my card. Okay, take that out. And where's my image? There it is. And then just adhere it right to the front of the card. So if you like this idea of hinge stamping, if you enjoyed this card, give me a little thumbs up on the video. I love to see those come through. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see other videos. Shop on my website. Share this video with a friend so they can see it as well. And go have some fun crafting today.